Hey everyone, today we're checking out what's happening in Korea. I did some extra digging this time around for another video that's coming out in a few days. You can probably guess what that's gonna be, but it means we've got 10 picks here that are new and better in 9.7. We'll jump straight in today with our first one, which is gonna be Ashe, who has been kind of floating around for a little while. She's been played a ton in the LCK though, so the Korean Pro League, and now everybody is playing her. She's amazing at gold and below, by the way. Probably one of the best AD carries in general, but especially early game. That's partly to do with the build, so it's Blade, Runans, and Infinity Edge normally third, so you've got good healing, some early damage from that Blade, and you scale well into mid game with the crit. Ashe has really high base range, which means that you can easily CS in lane phase, pretty safe. You can poke with the auto attacks as well, out trade people, and volley if they try to go a bit aggressive. It's why she tends to have a good win rate against stuff like Kai'Sa and Lucian, especially. If they want to get close to fight, they have to dash in, right? But you're going to slow them, volley, do some damage, run away, and then kite them endlessly. But that stuff makes the lane phase pretty good, but then you've got the arrow for the engage, like your ultimate, right? So you can actually use that lead that you're going to get if you do get one, or help to make plays in the game, and you're not going to be really relying on your team that much. You are a mobile though, and that's kind of the biggest downside. Like if you get camped or you position badly and stuff, you get caught, you get hooked by a thresh or something, you're pretty screwed. That's the one downside really. You have like a little less damage as well, I guess, but you go lethal tempo as your keystone to stack up your Q faster, so that is going to be some damage, and also go inspiration secondary, boots and biscuits, which gives you a better lane phase. You can also try approach velocity, by the way. Instead of one of those in the last row of inspiration, you'll get bonus move speed when you slow an enemy champion, and you can chase people down a lot easier. Next up, we have kind of another AD carry, but not really like style champion, I guess. Like Kindred has become really strong this patch, and something I noticed when I was looking through Challenger. There aren't really a ton of one tricks in Challenger in Korea, but most of the jungle ones were Kindred, and even people who don't normally play them have started to. That is a really good sign, and the new Conqueror is broken on Kindred. That's pretty much the short version of why everyone is playing her. You get some AD, some true damage, and some healing. This patch especially, they've moved away from a crit build a lot more and go for more of a shred, or even try and get a bit tankier. Black Cleaver second is really popular in high reloads where you don't want to get insta blown up, but then something like a rapid fire and Infinity Edge much later into the game. At low ranks though, Blade second is the build that is doing insanely well with Runan's third item. That gives you triple healing on all three bolts, plus the heal from Conqueror as well, so you end up just not dying. Kindred can be amazing early game if you get ahead and you nab a few kills. The damage is off the charts with the lead. You'll blow people up in a few hits, and it's kind of crazy considering you scale so well. That is because of the mark system, really. You always stand a good chance, and late game you will be a threat, right? Marks are really the main thing that you want to focus on at least, and at lower ranks especially, people don't really stop you from getting them, which is great. Next up, we have Rumble. He's seen a massive comeback this patch because of the buffs that we had. So double the move speed on his shield rank 1 and a lower cooldown on his ultimate. I've seen him as well in solo queue since the patch, and he always seems to do some really good damage. Like nobody expects it either. He's been out of meta for so long that at least for now, it's kind of a surprise pick, and you can use that to win your lane easier than normal because nobody really knows what's coming and they don't know when you can kill them. You've always been pretty good versus melee champions normally because of the burn if they get close. You go even versus stuff like Riven in Korea. You're beating Irelia, demolishing Jace and Akali, which are really good champions at the moment. The roots are a little bit weird. So Arcane Comet to start with as your keystone, but then Nimbus Cloak, which is not bad with his ultimate, makes some sense to get in there and burn people, but then Celerity to back that up. Gorge for a bit more damage, double heal from Domination with Taste of Blood, and Ravenous Hunter with your ultimate is actually insane, by the way, because you heal for so much. Build hasn't really changed that much. Leandra's Rush, stacking penetration like normal, but he's really good for this sort of like arrow meta that we have, where a lot of fights happen mid-game that nobody decide how it goes. His ultimate is a lot of damage, but it's also some really good engage. Talking about like those mid-game fights, Taric isn't really played that much, but when you look at his stats, he is one of the strongest champions in the game at the moment. I don't know if it's because of this stupid Sona Taric strat, by the way, or not. I don't think so, but it's probably adding it in there as well and just making it look like a little bit better. And this is where you run Taric and Sona bot lane together, and it's kind of stupid. In a normal lane though, he has his shield, a stun, a heal, and he's one tanky bugger as well, so he can frontline forever. But that is not why you really pick Taric. It can work, but you're not supposed to win lane. Your team fights are amazing. You've got your ultimate that is 2.5 seconds of no damage, letting you dive in and go ham. It's not really that good as a defensive tool. It can be kind of, but really you want to ult and then dive into the fight so you can damage them and they can't damage you. Your stun is also sort of like a mini Sonar ult, kind of the way it works, but apart from that, your shield and heal is way more more useful than you think. When he links to an ally, he gives them bonus armor, which at max level is 20% of how much Tarek has. The shield strength is also 12% of his total health, which gets bigger over the game obviously, and the heal is even based on his max health as well. Basically, as you get into teamfights, you're not just an old bot, everything else is getting better around you, and your runes are in a perfect spot. Guardian makes you a bit more tanky. You have shield bash for the damage as well, revitalize for more heals, and presence of mind. I know that sounds really weird taking precision secondary, but it refunds 10% of your ultimate cooldown when he gets a kill or assist, and that thing is massive for how you want to play the game. You can either take alacrity in there as well, which sounds weird, but it works really well with your passive damage, and honestly Tarek autos do way more than you think they do, or you go into tenacity so you can't get stun locked. Overall though, you are one of the best teamfight supports at the moment. Decent in lane, you can build a sensor, defensive items, frontline, bring crowd control, and a crazy good rune page. A good AD carry that can work with that actually is Niko, and yes, I know Niko was nerfed, so why are we still playing at bot lane? Well, it turns out we all kind of jump ship a little bit early with these nerfs, and if you play her, the build is still really strong. If you remember, she was absolutely broken when they buffed this, so they nerfed her really hard, but then next pack, she actually got half of that nerf back again as a buff, and most people didn't realize that. Now again, I've seen this a lot at higher ranks as an AD carry, but you can also play a top lane. It's the exact same build really with pressy attack. The items have changed a little bit since the last time we saw her because of the new Wit's End. For single target damage of this is crazy good, especially with a Rage Blade. When you dive into a bit more with Niko, she is an amazing choice for dominating lane phase and then winning before people can really catch back up again. Hurry is the change that started all of this in the first place. You can still root people for 1.8 seconds rank 1 at the start of the game through minions as well. That is a very long time early into the lane phase. It can set up ganks, it can set up your damage or even your supports, and you normally chain that into a kill. You can also run the more typical inspiration secondary as well with boots and biscuits if you want to. It makes playing a little bit more forgiving in the lane phase, and you can take a few bad trades or fight a little bit more. We're going to stay with the Wit's End buff for just a second. So Shyvana is probably one of the best champions in the entire game with this new item. At the moment, she is over a 60% win rate with it in general in Korea, but there are loads of different ways to make this work, like loads of different builds. You can grab it second after Blood Razor, just go for ham attack speed. You can grab it third after Rage Blade or even a Frozen Mallet. You can even grab it like fourth or fifth or sixth or something for a bit more damage in a normal build. When you do buy this, it will absolutely crush dragons and barons. The on-hit damage with that much attack speed will nuke the objectives down before anybody realizes. Attack speed also does a lot for Shyvana. It reduces your Q cooldown, extends the duration of your W, but probably the biggest thing is when you apply your E, each auto attack does percentage health damage. So the more attacks you have with the more attack speed, the more damage that is. I'm going to show you some press attack runes because that is really the normal thing right now with this style of build, and it works with the on-hit damage as well, so it has decent synergy, like it's going to amplify all of it. Conqueror is also really good though. Wit's End gives you the damage but also the heal, so with Conqueror, with that you're going to heal for even more and turn some of all of that into true damage. At least in Korea right now, if you can kind of escape the early game without being majorly behind, she stands a really good chance to win the game, sort of like how a Master Yi works. If you remember what we said about Rumble, it also applies to Fiddlesticks really. His ultimate mid game is a game changer if used properly. He's probably one of the best supports right now, at least until very late game. In Korea, he dominates the lane phase and then moves into the mid game. Part of that is because at level 9, you're going to have maxed your Q out with Aftershock now as well. It's not airy or maxing your E or anything, even though that doesn't seem to be that bad either if you really wanted to do it. The idea is that it's a point and click crowd control for 2.25 seconds rank 5 in these mid game fights, right? Morgana's Q can get up to 3 seconds rank 5, but this you really cannot miss. Speaking of which, Fiddle is really good against Morgana. This is the original reason why Fiddlesticks kind of came as a support, because you can pop the shield with the damage from your E and then fear afterwards, so she can't block the fear. Your E is actually decent damage, even if you leave it at rank 1. It also silences, so you can't really complain about that, and you can put some more points into it if you need to. You'll be able to solo kill people with your ultimate. You'll be able to decide the game yourself, win lane through the fear and aftershock abuse, and there's not really much of a downside to playing him at the moment. Shirelius is also pretty good, by the way. There's an item on him if you want to try that. You can even grab a redemption later to have more utility, but the early AP stack and penetration is what lets your ultimate kind of devastate and carry yourself. So now I've got 3 more that are probably like honorable mentions really, the ones I've noticed a lot more coming up. So Kog'Maw is one of the more super picks right now in 9.7, not played a ton, but when you look at the matchups, he wins a lot of the most popular ones. The sort of damage that Kog'Maw can pump out is unreal as soon as he gets his Rage Blade stacked, and just for single target, the new Wit's End has made that even harder to play against. He's never really that popular, and he probably never will be because he has 0 mobility, but on-hit builds are on the up again. He can nuke squishy targets down as well as tanks on the sea. It isn't just tanks that it works against. Anything that needs some kind of time to kill you, so like a Zaya or a Varus, even Lucian or Kai'Sa, Kog'Maw is going to be able to outrange them and then outdamage them as well. There is that little window at the very start of a fight where you might be able to kill him, but if you don't, he will destroy you at 6 rage base stacks. Zed is also now the best mid laner in Korea, probably in the game to be honest. He was already really good after those buffs a few patches ago, but then he had a few more in 9.7. Ultimate Hunter was given more cooldown reduction, so you could ult more, and Eyeball Collection has changed to now just need 10 stacks instead of 20. That means that he has access to a bit more AD earlier, plus more ults, and it's something that most people didn't really connect the two together. Zed can snowball out of control right now, and the buffs have made his lane phase a lot better. A lot of people already struggle to play against that anyway, so he gets fed a lot more often, which means he's more of a problem. Finally then, Tank Rise is everywhere in Korea, seriously. Aftershock into Archangels, Righteous Glory, and other tank items, just making him impossible to kill. The idea is that you last a lot longer, so you can pump out more damage over time, and less burst, but to be honest, it's not even that much less burst because it's Rise. Righteous Glory means that people can't get away from you. You can go Rylai's for the slows and more health, even stuff like Frozen Heart as well, and you seriously just will not die in teamfights. Aftershock is so easy to proc as well with your W that it makes fighting him or trading in lane really hard. A lot of why Lissandra was actually so good for so long. I know Rise isn't massively popular right now, never that great, but actually every single person that I looked at, especially as a mid laner, is playing Aftershock Tank Rise. Okay, so that wraps up a bunch of picks from Korea that are better in patch 9.7. Thank you for watching the video. Remember to like the video if you did, but either way, for now, I'm going to leave you with the robots.